Lord be with you. Proclamation of the gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and you visited you? And the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it to me. Then he will say to those at his left hand, you that are accursed, depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you didn't welcome me. Naked, and you didn't give me clothing. Sick and in prison, but you did not visit me. Then they also will answer, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not take care of you? Then you will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did it not to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Were you ever puzzled by something and just couldn't figure it out? And then all of a sudden, the light goes on, and you say, aha. Well, that's what happened to me, particularly when I delved into that first reading today, because I could not make the connection there, what Ezekiel was trying to get across with regard to shepherds and kings. Then it dawned on me, kings also had a responsibility to be shepherds. And that's why you find out, particularly from the Hebrew Scriptures, that Jacob was a shepherd, Moses was a shepherd, David, of course, was a shepherd, but David also was a king. And he, of course, was an individual when he was taking care of his sheep. He killed not only a lion, but also a bear. And maybe, just maybe, that prepared him so that he could kill the lion. David, of course, had his faults, his shortcomings and imperfections. It just shows, though, how God, despite the fact that we have shortcomings and imperfections, that we can still do good things. And David was told that his dynasty would never end. And of course, it's fulfilled in Jesus. That's why when you pick up the Hebrew Scriptures, you always find that everything builds kind of to a climax to Jesus. Jesus is the good shepherd because he said, I know mine, and mine know me. So we have to ask ourselves, is that true? Do I really know Jesus? Have I, particularly during this past year, somehow gone deeper into my relationship with Jesus? That, I think, is a very important question for us to ask. Have I deepened that relationship with Jesus Christ? Jesus also says that a good shepherd will lay down his life for his sheep. And that's what Jesus did for us. And that is what we celebrate here in the Eucharist. The fact that we celebrate what Jesus has done for us, the fact that he suffered, that he died, that he rose, that he sent the power of his Spirit to us, and somehow that power of the Spirit has to come alive in us, especially during a celebration like this. And then, of course, what Jesus is trying to get across to us is the fact that what we have to be able to do is reach out to people. And he contrasts those individuals in the gospel today. To reach out to them. We see that particularly with regard to Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She was an individual. She did not look at a person and say, oh, that person's so ugly. How can I reach out to that individual? She didn't do that. She reached out to individuals that were in the gutter, that were dying, and was able to do that. Our Father Solanus Casey, who was beatified on Saturday, is also an individual who reached out to the hungry because he was at Detroit at the time, and in that particular place there where he was, they fed thousands and thousands of people. But one day, the bread ran short. They didn't have enough bread. So he simply said to them, have faith. That was always his key words. Have faith. Have faith. Sure enough, shortly after that, somebody from a bakery nearby came with loaves of bread. He also was an individual who reached out to all people, no matter who they were, reached out to the strangers. In fact, one day, he had so many people coming to him, and he was undoubtedly exhausted, but what did he do? There was a couple that came in toward the evening, and what did he do? Instead of saying, oh, I can't, I'm too exhausted, spent time with them, was able to do that. It was a marvelous, by the way, celebration there. Marvelous, wonderful, once in a lifetime. I remember when I was trying to get down to the main floor of the stadium, and some lady came up to me and said to me, would you hear my confession? So I said, sure. So I took her over into an alcove there and heard a confession. And in the meantime, what happened was people started lining up. They wanted to go to confession. So I had to tell this man, I said, no, he says, I can't hear anymore because I got to get downstairs. But what a marvelous celebration. And the amazing part was, you know that this celebration took 2.5 hours? And the amazing part was that many people commented about that so many families came there with their children. And they said the children were very subdued and took it all in. Marvelous. So we give praise and thanks to God for people like Father Solanus Casey, as well as our mother Teresa of Calcutta, and so many others that can inspire us to be able to do the same thing. See, and that's why I always look up to individuals like that. They can inspire us to do that. They can inspire us to say, yes, I can do this, because this is what Jesus asks of us, to be able to do that, to reach out to the hungry, to the poor, to the lonely. And we do that?
Yes.